What's going on, guys? It's the Draft Nerd, and today we are ranking the top 10 defensive tackles, the unsung heroes of the defensive line. In this class, we got a lot of, massive guys. We got a lot of super athletic guys. So we got a good mix of both. So without further ado, let's get into it. Alright, coming in at number 10, we got Mason Smith, the defensive tackle out of LSU. Now, Mason Smith is a former 5-star recruit. I believe he was a All-American freshman. Like, he has the pedigree to be a really good player in the NFL. He's 6'5", 306 pounds. He's so an amazing frame. But a little background on Mason Smith. To begin the 2022 season, he suffered from a torn ACL by celebrating a teammate's tackle in the first game of the year, which forced him to miss all of 2022. So, he comes back in 2023. I have big expectations for him. He was in my top 5 defensive tackles during summer scouting. And in 2023, he had a bit of a lackluster season, only 3 sacks, 23 pressures, and 13 defensive stops. And what defensive stops are just when you stop the run for minimal gain, basically. It's not quite a tackle for loss, but, you did your job, basically, in the run game. So, a bit of a lackluster season statistic-wise. And the thing with Mason Smith is, when you look at him, he looks like a Madden creative player. He's tall, he's got super long arms, he's got a lot of muscle mass on him. He looks like, someone you would build in Madden. But when you look at him, for one, he plays with, little to no leverage, which is understandable when you're 6'5", that's pretty tall for a defensive tackle, but he plays so upright that it just makes me so mad. He doesn't get the right leverage. He plays, so frantic, like, it almost looks like he has no idea what he's doing. He's just out there because he's a great athlete, and I think that is the case. With the torn ACL, he wasn't able to get coached as much as most people coming out of the draft do. He had his freshman year, and then he had this year. But he's got a great frame. I think he's got really good pass rush traits. He's got all the athleticism in the world. He's kind of similar to Chop Robinson but only on the inside. He's athletic, he's got all the traits, what you see you like, but he has really no pass rush moves. He's, just trying to out-athlete everyone on the field. And, it kind of worked for him in college, but it's not going to work in the NFL. But I could see a team taking him in day 2 and just, banking on that upside and thinking, hey, if we get him in our doors and we are able to coach him up, he could be a really good player for us. And I wouldn't blame him for that. So, I wouldn't be mad at a team taking him, late day 2, maybe, middle to late 3rd round, in my opinion. Because he's just got so much upside, but he just hasn't put it all together at all yet. All right, coming in at number 9, we got Brenden Fisk, the defensive tackle / edge out of Oregon. He's a bit of a tweener. I decided to put him in my defensive tackles just because I don't know if he would have made my top 10 edge players, and it would have been close. But he plays out of Oregon, and he's 6'3", 286 pounds, so again, a bit of a tweener. And, I think it really depends on which team drafts him, whether he's going to play, 3-tech or if he's going to play 5-tech, more on the outside. I think, a team could draft him like, hey, let's drop a few pounds and let's play you on the 3-tech, on the 5-tech. Or you could gain a couple pounds and play 3-tech for us. I think it just depends on which team drafts him. And in 2023, he put up 4 sacks, 46 pressures, and 16 defensive stops. So, 46 pressures is a good amount of pressure. So he was getting after the quarterback. He just wasn't always finishing the job, basically. Some of the pros I have for him is he's got extremely active hands. Like, he definitely uses his hands to, just shed off blocks. He's got a super high motor. He's just really gritty. Like, he's going to work hard for his playing time in the NFL. I also have his versatility just because, like I said, he could play 3-tech, he could play 5-tech, he could play really all along that defensive line if a team really wants to use him in a unique way. The things that I worry about Brenden Fisk with is just his size in general, and I know I said you could add a few pounds and play him on the 3-tech, but if you look at this picture on this graphic I have right here, his legs aren't the biggest. He's got pretty skinny legs, which, affects his strength and his anchor in the run game. So maybe once you get him into an NFL weight room, that changes. But as of right now, I am worried about his lower half and if he's going to be able to, set a strong anchor and, really defend the run at a high level in the NFL because, NFL guards and centers are a lot stronger than, college guards and centers, and he was struggling against them to set an anchor. So you do worry about that. So maybe that's why a team might, kick him out to the edge. I think he's got a really refined pass rush moveset for a guy coming out of college. I think he's got one of the better pass rush movesets of these defensive tackles we're going to talk about. So I do like his pass rush upside year one, and I think he could do some damage in the pass game year one more than a lot of these other guys. And I wouldn't be mad if a team took him, late day two, in my opinion. All right, moving on to number 8, we got Rook Rojo. I think that's how you say it. That's a tough name to say. He's a defensive tackle out of Clemson, 6'4", 294 pounds, so similar size to Brandon Dorless, but I do think Rook is more of a defensive tackle than Brandon Dorless. In 2023, put up 5 sacks, 24 pressures, 17 defensive stops, which is pretty good production for a Clemson defensive lineman because really Clemson is solely focused on stopping the run. A lot of their pass rushers don't put up much production, and Rook put up solid production for being a Clemson defensive lineman. I think he's a really, really, really good athlete. He's got a really strong get off. He's got strong hands. He's got a pretty strong upper body in general. I think he can play all along that defensive line, whether that's 5 tech, 3 tech, and you might even be able to play him, up against a center as well. He's got very good versatility. Clemson played him all along that defensive line. But the things you worry about with him is he's really just an athlete. He's not a refined pass rusher at all. He's got the base moves like the club, the rip through, things like that every college prospect should have. But he doesn't have anything that's, going to set him apart in the NFL. So that's why I have pass rush as a con. I also don't think he's able to shut off blocks in the run game at an elite level. He doesn't play with great leverage. A lot of the technical stuff Rook is, a little behind on, in my opinion. And in the NFL, that could really affect you and you could get forgot about pretty quickly. I think realistically, he's going to be a really good depth piece for a team and kind of a high floor backup, in my opinion, because he does have that athleticism. He does have that length, which will take you a decently far in the NFL. But if he really wants to be that, starter, he's going to have to get a pass rush moveset, and he's going to have to get, a little more refined in the mental aspect and, knowing what to do, when to do it, things like that. So I think he will be a really good backup, and, I wouldn't be mad at taking him late day 3, in my opinion. I like his floor a little bit more than I like the other guys we've talked about so far. Moving on to number 7, we got Dwayne Carter, the defensive tackle out of Duke, and this is our first real Hogmolly. He's 6'2", 302 pounds, so he meets that 300-pound threshold, who, a lot of these guys don't meet nowadays, so he's a bit of a bigger guy, and in 2023, he put up 2 sacks, 25 pressures, and 23 defensive stops. Not bad, not terrible, but the thing I really want to talk about first is the 2022 Dwayne Carter is a lot different from the 2023 Dwayne Carter. What I mean by that is the 2022 Dwayne Carter was a lot better, and a lot of that could be boiled down to just college teams are game planning around Dwayne Carter now. Duke's not the best team. Dwayne Carter is one of the best players on that defense, so a lot of teams were probably, game planning around him, like we have to stop Dwayne Carter. And, that could be a part of it. It could be a big part of it. But, his pass rush win rate in 2022 was just a lot higher than in 2023. So it kind of took a steep decline, which you don't always like to see, but it can be explained. Teams could have just game planned around him. But some of his pros is he's just a leader. He's super aware of what's going on around him. Like, he knows which gap to shoot, when to shoot it. He knows where the run's going. Everything up in the mental aspect is really refined, which you'd love to see for a college prospect. I also think he's got really good bend for his size. He's able to utilize the stunt move pretty effectively, which a lot of defensive tackles aren't really able to do. I think he's got really strong hands. He knows where to put them, and when he does put them on you, you're going to feel that power. So I think he's got a really powerful base. I just don't think he's the best athlete. And in the NFL, teams are looking for athletes. And, I think Dwayne Carter is just an average one at best. I also think I can put down inconsistency just because, like I said, 2022 was a lot better than 2023 for him. And then the last one is block shed. I think in the run game, he knows where the run's going to be. I just would like to see him, shed off that block a little bit faster than I've seen on tape. And I think that could really be fixed pretty easily, but I'm just putting out what I've seen on tape, and, block shedding was a bit of a problem for me. But, I think Dwayne Carter's got a really high floor in the NFL. I think he could be a starter in the league one day. just due to his, intangibles and his intelligence. But again, he's just an average athlete. He might be more of a rotational guy in the NFL. But I really like Dwayne Carter. I like his power profile a lot. So I wouldn't be mad at a team taking him maybe late in the second round. I do think he's worth that pick. And I could see a team drafting him early day 2. Although I like him more of that late second round area. Alright, coming in at number 6, we got Michael Hall Jr., the defensive tackle at Ohio State. And I'm a really big fan of Michael Hall Jr. I'm probably a bit higher on him than most people, but he's 6'3", 290 pounds, and in 2023 put up 2 sacks, 29 pressures, and 16 defensive stops. Now, what Michael Hall is at his best, he's a penetrating gap shooter at the defensive tackle position. He's going to use really good leverage. He's going to have a really fast get off because of his size. He's going to shoot gaps, and he's going to use active hands. Ohio State never really asked him to hold his anchor, eat up double teams, and stop the run. And I think there's a reason for that. I think it's because he can't really do it. He's a smaller guy at that 285 range, because I do think he bulked up a bit at the combine to get to that 290 range. I think his playing weight is more around 280, 285. So in the NFL, that's not going to be able to hold up against double teams. So I don't think he's got the anchor or the strength to really eat up blocks and, stop the run. And in the NFL, you obviously need to do that. And so, at his best, I think he's a rotational pass rusher on that defensive line who's going to shoot gaps, get to the quarterback, and get sacks. And that's a very valuable, role for an NFL team. I don't think he's going to have the most snaps in the world, just because I don't think teams are going to want him on the field for rundowns. So I think at his best, he's going to be a penetrating 3 tech who's going to get pretty high pressure numbers and pretty high sack numbers in the NFL. And I'm willing to take that in the second round, in my opinion. I think, he's going to be a very valuable pass rusher in the NFL. All right, coming in at number 5, we're cracking the top 5. We got Tandre Sweat, the defensive tackle out of Texas. Now, this guy is absolutely massive at 6'5", 366 pounds. And he worked hard to get down to 366. I think he played at Texas more around that 375 range. And that's a bit worrisome in my opinion, but in 2023 put up 2 sacks, 30 pressures, and 26 defensive stops. Now, the thing with Tandre Sweat is he's basically the exact opposite of Michael Hall Jr., who we just talked about. Tandre Sweat's going to eat up double teams. He's going to hold his ground, stop the run, just be that clog in the middle of that defense. He's got really strong hands, obviously really strong, legs. He's got great power, and he's able to put on an effective bull rush. He's able to push the pocket and push smaller centers and guards back. The thing you worry about with Tandre Sweat, though, is his weight is a concern. He might struggle with his weight once he gets to the NFL. We don't know if he's able to stick to that 365-pound range. I also don't think he's the greatest pass rusher. He's not going to be able to shoot gaps at that size, but he is fairly athletic for his size, and I think he could develop a pretty good pass rush moveset. He just doesn't necessarily have it right now. He's basically everything Michael Hall isn't when it comes to the run game. And, Michael Hall is, everything Tandre Sweat isn't in the pass game. It's more of a pick your flavor. Which one would you rather prefer? The reason I put Tandre Sweat over Michael Hall Jr. is because, for one, I like his floor a little bit more. I'd rather get that defensive clog in the middle. And I also think Tandre Sweat can develop a pass rush moveset. I don't necessarily think Michael Hall Jr. can develop the ability to stop the run just due to his size. So I wouldn't be mad if Tandre Sweat went early day 2. I wouldn't be mad if my Giants drafted him in the second round. So I think he's comfortably in that second round range, and for good reason. All right, coming in at number 4, we got Chris Jenkins Jr., son of former NFL player Chris Jenkins Sr. And Chris Jenkins Jr. is the defensive tackle out of Michigan, 6'3", 299 pounds, and in 2023 put up 2 sacks, 20 pressures, and 26 defensive stops. Now, the reason I really, really like Chris Jenkins is because he's got a super high floor, just because he's amazing in the run defense game. He's got really powerful hands, powerful base. He's able to anchor really solidly, and he's got the lateral speed to, hold his own athletically. There was a reason he was nicknamed the Mutant at Michigan. I think that's what his nickname was. It was something like that, and that's because he's just an athletic freak. The thing that holds me up with Chris Jenkins, though, is his pass rush moveset and his pass rush production just hasn't improved really. If he improved his pass rush in 2023, I I think he would be a first round pick, and I think we would be talking about him with the likes of Jeron Newton and Byron Murphy. The reason we're not, though, is because he hasn't improved on his pass rush. I don't think he's got the best repertoire when it comes to pass rush moves. I don't think he's got a great get off, which is kind of strange because I do think he's a good athlete, but that get off isn't, amazing. And then I have production because, 2 sacks, 20 pressures, that's not great. And so the reason he's this high is because he's one of the best run defenders in this class, alongside with probably Tandre Sweat, but that's due to size. This guy's good in run defense because he's got all the intangibles. He's able to disengage blocks. He knows where the run's going. He's got the power to hold his own, and eat up double teams. He's got the quickness to be able to, at some point, rush the passer once he gets the pass rush moveset. So I just really like Chris Jenkins' floor. I think at worst he's going to be a low end, defensive tackle 2 on a team. But I think if he improves his pass rush moveset, I think he could be a top 20, top 15 defensive tackle in the league one day. So I wouldn't be mad at a team taking him at the beginning of day 2. Alright, coming in at number 3, I do have Brenden Fisk, the defensive tackle out of Florida State. He's 6'4", 292 pounds, and when you talk about guys that had an amazing offseason, draft process, you got to think about Brenden Fisk. He went to the Senior Bowl, blew everything out of the water. He won basically all of his one-on-ones against the offensive linemen. He went to the combine and blew everyone out of the water when it came to his athletic testing. And in 2023, he had a solid season with 6 sacks, 28 pressures, and 25 defensive stops. So I went back and watched some of his tape because before, the Senior Bowl and everything, I had him more of that 100, 150 range. And once I went back and watched some of his tape, he's comfortably in my top 50 now. And, that's because he's got amazing get off. Obviously, he's going to be an amazing penetrating 3 tech in the NFL. He's got really good hand usage, active hands, and a high motor. This guy is going to get into the backfield. The only thing I worry about is once he gets into the backfield, he has trouble, diagnosing where the ball carrier is and where the quarterback is. So I would like to see his awareness get a little bit better. And realistically, he's just a better Michael Hall Jr. I think he's a penetrating 3 tech at the next level who's going to get a high pressure number and high sack numbers. He's not the most lengthy guy in the world, so that's going to affect him when it comes to the run game. I think he's a slightly better run defender than Michael Hall Jr., but they're both, pretty subpar when it comes to that department. But I just really like Brenden Fisk's pass rushing upside, and that's why he's here at number 3. I want to be mad at a team taking him early day 2. Alright, and my number 2 guy is Byron Murphy. Now, my number 2 guy and my number 1, which is obviously Jeron Newton now, these 2 guys are both solidified first-round picks in my opinion. Byron Murphy is 6'1", 297 pounds, and in 2023, he put up 6 sacks, 45 pressures, and 21 defensive stops. So a really, really good 2023 for Byron Murphy. Byron Murphy is kind of, the perfect mix of power and speed. This guy's got a very powerful lower half, and for his size, sub 300 pounds, this dude is strong as an ox. He's able to hold his own on double teams. He's able to anchor really, really well. And he's got extremely strong hands. When he puts his hands on those linemen, you can see them noticeably kind of jolt back a little bit. He's also got a really good get off as well. He's able to fire off that 3-point stance and really get his hands where he needs them to get. The things I do worry about with Byron Murphy, though, is his lateral quickness isn't amazing. Like, his pursuit in the run game isn't great, but for a defensive tackle, that's not, the biggest worry in the world. I also think he doesn't have many counters, and that's not to say he doesn't have a lot of pass rush moves, because I think he utilizes the swim, the arm over, the rip through. He's able to get skinny in between blockers. Like, he's got a pretty solid bull rush. Like, he's got pass rush moves, but when that initial pass rush attempt doesn't work, I don't think he does the best job at countering into something else and still trying to get after the quarterback. So I would like to see him utilize counters a little bit more, but all in all, I think he's the perfect prototypical defensive tackle in today's day and age. And I think he looks a little bit longer than he really is, but him and my number 1 are about the same, size. And so moving on to my number 1, it is Jeron Newton. And when you think about Jeron Newton, you think about his ability to get after the quarterback. Now, before we get into his pros and cons, he's almost the same size as Byron Murphy. He's 6'1", 305 pounds, so similar size. And in 2023, he had 8 sacks, 43 pressures, and 32 defensive stops. You know, again, amazing 2023 for Jeron Newton. Some of his pros I have is his get off. I do think he has a bit of a better get off than Byron Murphy does. I think he's got a higher motor than Byron Murphy does, and I think he's able to shed off blocks and get into the backfield a little bit better than Byron Murphy. The things you worry about with Jeron Newton, though, is his size. I don't necessarily think he's able to anchor in the run game as good as Byron Murphy. I think Byron Murphy's a better, run defender, but I think Jeron Newton's a better pass rusher, if that makes sense. So again, similar to some of the guys we've talked about before, I think Byron Murphy and Jeron Newton are so close that it just depends on which flavor you like more. Do you like the better run defender who's still got a good pass rush moveset? Or do you rather prefer the amazing pass rusher in Jeron Newton, who can still hold his own in the run, just not as good as Byron Murphy? They're so close to me. I wouldn't be mad if people have Byron Murphy, and I think Byron Murphy is the consensus number one guy. I think I'm in the minority by having Jeron Newton here at number one. But again, they're so close for me. You just got to pick your flavor. I think they're both top 20 players in this class. So, they're both amazing talents in my opinion. But that's going to do it. Let me know what you guys think of my rankings down in the comments. And if you like these type of videos, you should consider subscribing, because we're going to be pushing out a lot more of these rankings for every position. There's also going to be mock drafts, mock draft reactions, and a couple other fun videos sprinkled in between. I'm going to be posting almost every day in April leading up to the draft. And when the draft comes, I'm going to be dropping grades for day 1, day 2, day 3 of the draft. And then I'll be ranking, every team's draft class as a whole. So subscribe to stay tuned for that. And as always, this is the Draft Nerd. Thanks for watching.